Anything to report from the break, ladies and gentlemen? All right, good. Ms. Whaley, are you ready to call your first witness?
Yes, Your Honor. Commonwealth calls Cody Etherton.
If you'll take a seat, please. And if you'll raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. You can put your hand down.
Would you state the name for the jury and speak up so we can hear you?
My name is Cody Etherton.
How old are you, Cody?
I am 29.
And do you live in Louisville?
Yes.
Did you grow up in Louisville?
Yes.
And you go to high school here?
Yes.
Which high school?
Fairdale.
Okay. And remember to speak up. Where do you work, Cody?
Currently working for a guy named Rob Hendrickson. It's a remodeling business.
And who do you live with?
Currently, I live with Chelsea Napper and my son Bryson and her son Zayden.
And how long have you and Chelsea been together?
6 years. Yeah.
And so when you all met, her son Zayden, she had her son Zayden or had not? I guess she had.
Yes. Yes, she, we're both in recovery, so she was in the process of getting him back.
Okay.
And we both have over 4 years sober, so she was getting her stuff together, getting her life together, so that she could be a stable mother for him.
I see.
Yes.
So you all are both in recovery now?
Yes, ma'am.
And how long have you been sober?
I have been sober since December 23rd of 2017. So
Congratulations.
over 4 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So you all been together 6 years, and you all have a son now.
Yes, ma'am.
And what's his name?
His name is Bryson Etherton.
And how old is Bryson now?
Bryson is 20 months.
Okay. So I'm going to take you back now to March of 2020. Was Chelsea pregnant with Bryson at that time?
Yes, ma'am. I believe that she was around 7 months pregnant with my son.
And where did you all live in March of 2020?
We lived in St. Anthony Gardens Apartments, 3003 Springfield Drive, Apartment 3.
Apartment 3. And how long had you lived there at March of 2020? How long had you all been there?
I think at that day we was around going on I believe 2 years, going on about 2 years.
Okay. Did you know the neighbors in the building there at 3003?
No, I did not. I've seen them a few times. Didn't really know them. Didn't even know their names.
When I say neighbors, you all had quite a few apartments in the building.
Yes.
So you all were apartment 3, And did you know the people who lived in apartment 4 as you come out your door, be to your left?
No, I did not. I've seen them coming in and out. We said hi. That was it. Like, I never knew their names.
And who did you think lived there as far as male, female, how many people?
I was under the impression that about 3 people lived there.
Which would be,
2 females and a male.
okay. Now, what about apartment to your right as you come out your door, apartment 2? Did you know those folks?
I don't remember her name, but I did talk to her. She was a sweet older lady. She was very friendly. We did have quite a few conversations. They was real short, but like I said, I don't even remember her name, to be honest.
Okay. Any of the other neighbors that you knew? Or,
No.
so were you all busy back at that time? You all had active lives?
Yes, ma'am. I worked a lot. Sometimes 10 hours, sometimes even more days. Worked weekends too. And like I said, we was in bed 10 o'clock, up 7 o'clock next morning, off to work. At work by 8 every single day, Monday through Friday.
Okay, I'm going to show you a exhibit. A floor plan of your apartment. Deputy Ballinger, he indicated he was next door. It's not, oh, yeah. It's not responding.
Okay.
Well, I think we're going to go the old-fashioned way and use the poster. Oh, here's Deputy Manager.
There you go.
The professional. Okay, Cody, if you would, can we get it on both screens?
Is it on your screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. He has it on his screen here on the,
If you could look at the floor plan on the screen and point out where you and Chelsea slept. Where's your bedroom?
Is he going to show it on there?
I'm not sure.
I think you may have to use the pointer to the screen behind you, the laser pointer. Yeah.
Okay. So me and Chelsea slept in this back bedroom here.
Okay, and then where did Zayden sleep?
Zayden slept along this wall in his bedroom.
Is that where his bed was?
Yes, it was actually long ways against this wall.
Okay. And just go ahead and point out the front door to the apartment.
This here was the front door.
Okay. Now, on the night of March 12th, what time did you all go to bed?
I believe we was definitely in bed by 10:30.
And Zayden was in bed?
Yes, ma'am.
So what happened after that, after you went to bed?
So we were sleeping, and I got woke to what was like a loud boom, and I jumped on my feet, and she jumped out of the bed as well, and I kind of sped walked down the hallway here, and in my mind I was thinking that for some reason I just thought that somebody was trying to come into our apartment. So my instinct was to go to the front door, of course, to protect my family. So as I made it down the end of the hall and I came out into the living room, dining room area, our kitchen table was here on this wall in the dining room, and right when I came out into the open, just debris started going past my head, my face, which I pretty much knew, because I heard the shots, pretty much knew that it was gunfire coming through the wall, because that's what I do for a living, is remodeling. So when drywall started hitting me in the face, like I already knew. So I hit the floor and rolled back into the hallway, went back into the bedroom, made her get on the ground. There was probably maybe a 30-second pause. Everything got silent after the shots. Like, I don't even remember how many shots I heard because it was just so chaotic. I remember hearing them, but I couldn't tell you how many I heard. Like, it was all at once to me. After the silent, I believe that I heard LMPD, get down on the ground, or somewhere along those lines. I heard something like, I heard LMPD announce themselves outside. Like, that's all I remember. And I remember having like a relief. I was like, okay, the police are out there. it kind of relieved my mind because, like, I didn't know what to think at the time. Like, I didn't know if people were outside in the breezeway fighting, shooting at each other. I didn't know if we was getting robbed. Like, I just didn't know what was going on. And so after I heard the LMPD yelling outside, I kind of waited, paused, made her stay still, and then everything got silent again. And that's when I came back out into the hallway, out into the dining room, and I looked through the peephole, and I didn't see anything at all.
The peephole, point out where that is.
That was right here in the front door, and I didn't see anything when I looked through the peephole. So for some reason, I opened the door and I walked out, and I had no shirt on, red basketball shorts. I don't even think I had flip flops or anything on. I think I was barefooted. And I walked all the way out into the breezeway, and I looked left, and I seen the neighbor's door busted wide open, but it was pitch black inside. And then that's when I heard.
That would be apartment 4 to your left?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And that's when I heard.
Did you look in the door?
Yeah, I looked in there, but it was black as night, and I couldn't really see anything. Couldn't make up of anything. And I remember.
Anybody in the breezeway?
No, didn't see anything. I could see like flashing lights around the corner of the building, but straight ahead there was nobody. There was nothing.
Okay, what'd you do?
And I after I looked down the hall or into her bedroom or apartment, I heard somebody saying, I believe that was "Breathe, baby, breathe."
Breathe.
I think it was "Breathe, baby, breathe." That's what I remember hearing. And that's when I knew. I was like, "This is serious." Like, so I kept walking out towards the edge of the steps at the end of the breezeway just to look out into the parking lot to see what was going on. That's when some officers seen me, and they ordered me to get back into the apartment immediately. So I did. I turned around, went back inside, shut the door, locked it, and then I remember hearing from our back patio screen door, I remember hearing all the glass just shuddering, falling. So I walked to it, and I pulled the sliding blinds open just to look at it. And when I did, there was, not sure if it was police or SWAT or what, but they were, I remember seeing a dog. I remember seeing a dog to my left, a canine. And then I seen, I know I had flashlights on me, but I believe I seen red dots. And,
Out the back of the patio.
Out the back of the patio. And they seen me, and I heard them say, white male, red basketball shorts, no shirt, round back. I remember hearing it. You could hear it on the radio. And they instructed me to put my hands out the door through the falling glass. They said, put your hands out the window. That's what they said. And I was like, to me, that was not a good idea, for one, because there's falling glass. So I immediately shut the blinds back and jarred it back down into the hallway. And I remember thinking, I was like, they're getting ready to stick this dog in here. And I have a dog. I had a dog as well. And I remember thinking, like, if this dog gets in here, he's going to harm us.
Did they have guns?
Yes.
Pointed at where?
They were pointed all towards the door. Like, I believe that I even had, I remember seeing red dots going across, like, towards, like, I was at the doorway. And I remember seeing red dots, like, crossing me, where I was standing, and they definitely had lights shined on me.
And told you to put your hands out the broken glass?
Yes, ma'am.
But you didn't?
No, I did not. I immediately ran back down into the hallway, and
Go ahead and point out where you ran back.
I ran back down into the hallway, and Chelsea was standing right here. She may have been sitting down right there, but I remember she got up and stood up, and I said, "Get 911," or she might have even had 911 on the phone, and I made her call them back. I believe that's what happened. She was already on the phone with 911, and then she hung up, and I said, "Call them back and tell them that whatever's going on, this is the wrong apartment." Like, cause I could put two and two together. Like, I was like, of course, I seen the busted door. So I knew that I immediately put two and two together. I was like, they think my back door is her back door. That's what I thought. And which to me is just very unorganized. Like, they, to me, a professional, a well-trained officer, they should have had the floor plans. They should have had the blueprints. Like, they didn't even know whose back door that was. They didn't even know who lived there. So to me, that kind of upset me. It was just reckless to me. And so she got him back on the phone, and I told him to tell him that this is not the same apartment, whatever's going on. They're holding me at gunpoint, telling me to put my hands out the window, blah, blah, blah. And then they said, it's fine, sit still. We'll get. They said they'll sort it out or whatever, and we'll send an officer over there. So she hung up the phone, and I think we sat there, honestly. She hung up the phone, and at one point, not too long after that, I ended up going back to the front door, and looking through the peephole again, and that's when I watched them talk a male with his hands up, walking backwards towards the end of the breezeway. They was instructing him out of the apartment 4. Made him walk backwards with his hands up, and then I watched him. I literally watched him get down on his knees at the end of the steps and watched him arrest him through the peephole.
Through the peephole.
Yes, ma'am. And so after that, we sat there an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours before anybody even came and checked on us. It was cold that night. Like I said, our patio screen door, a glass door, sliding door was shattered. We was freezing. Luckily, her son at the time did not wake up. He did wake up later on, early the next morning, and I remember, I think she told him that a storm came or something. But we sat there for a while, and then in my mind I was like, well, I'm gonna try to go back to sleep and get some rest. So I'm gonna go to work. Like, for some reason I was gonna go to work that next morning. They wouldn't let me out of the apartment to even go to work because I tried, and they said, no, you cannot leave the apartment. This is a crime scene.
They come into the apartment and take photographs and collect bullets.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, if you would look at the photograph on the screen, which is Exhibit 94, and take your pointer and explain what that shows.
So this shot here, I believe, is the one that I was inches away from hitting me, because I was eye level with this hole here. And like I said, I was literally standing in front of the table at the end of the hallway when this happened, and then bullets came through the wall. One more, like I literally, like 1 or 2 more inches and I would have been shot. Which kind of upsets me because I think about it all the time, and I'm like, my son would have never even got to meet me. I would have never even got to meet my son. I mean, any of them bullets could have went anywhere, you know.
There's another bullet in the clock, or bullet hole.
Yes, there's another one here, and then there's one down here above the chair rail.
Going to Exhibit 95. Next photo. There, and then the other bullet hole in the clock.
Yes.
Go on to 96. And then, is that the third bullet hole?
Yes, ma'am. This one, I believe, bounced up on the table.
Okay. This next photo, again, of the dining room table. And I think the next one, 98. Is that the bullet that landed on, came through that drywall there, the chair rail, I guess, and hit the table?
Yes, ma'am.
Take 1, 2. Now, this photo, Exhibit 100, tell us what this is showing.
So this here is the end of the hallway. This is where her son Zayden was sleeping along this wall. This is where his bed is.
The other side of the wall.
Is on the other side of the wall. So, you know, I literally measured it. It was like 7 more feet to the right, and that bullet would have entered his room.
And you came down that hall when you heard the banging.
Yes, I came down the hall. Right, I was standing right here when I dropped to the ground.
After the debris came through the wall.
Yes, ma'am.
There, Exhibit 101 here, what does this show?
This is showing our patio sliding glass door.
Now,
And up here is another bullet. I believe this bullet bounced back out off the brick on the other side and landed somewhere on the ground here.
and we'll go on to the next photo. 102. Is this your patio door?
Yes, ma'am.
And at the bottom of that photo, is that the shattered glass we see on the carpet?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, this photo is a close-up of what you were explaining, the bullet at the top there, bullet defect. So it didn't actually go through the wall. It was found on the carpet below. We'll see in the next photo, I think. But that, can you go back to 103? The blind there, the hole in the blind, that's a bullet hole, that the one that actually went through and shattered.
Yes, ma'am, I believe so.
Now this is a close-up of that, some of that shattered glass right below the sliding door, and that's a bullet there. You want to point that out? Now, when did you all actually, were you actually able to leave the apartment, and how did that happen? That next day, which would have been the March 13th.
I'm not sure the exact time. It was hours. It was several hours that we remained in the apartment. Like I said, I don't recall the exact time like that we was able to leave.
And when you left, how did you leave? Did you go out the front door, or?
They told us we could go out back.
Through the broken door?
Through the broken door. They told us we could go around back and leave that way, but like I said, like our vehicles were right in the middle, so there was no leaving. Chelsea at one point went to look for maintenance at the office with her son, to see about somebody at least boarding it up or replacing the door, because like I said, it was cold. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how many hours we remained in there, but it was several hours.
At some point, you got permission that you could go out the front?
Yes. At one point, they did tell us that it was clear and it was okay to exit out the front. And I remember walking out there and looking at my work truck, and I remember seeing blood on the side of my work truck, and I was like, and I knew what it was. I knew what it was from. But I don't even think we left that day after that. Like, we were still trying to put it all together in our heads, like really what just happened.
Now, these photos that you've been describing, are they a fair and accurate representation of how your apartment looked that night?
Yes, they are.
Your Commonwealth would move to admit 94 through 108.
94 and then,
95, 96.
did you show all of those?
Actually, 94 through 105. This is 105 here, the last photo that was shown.
All right, I thought maybe I'm wrong, I thought we skipped from 94 and then the next exhibit that you showed was 100.
So 95.
Okay.
We could,
Any objection?
Judge, I don't have any objection. I'm not sure that 94 through 105 were all shown, but I assume they're all about the same.
94 through 105 were shown. We could go back through them.
Why don't we? Why don't we just go through them quickly?
Okay.
Make
So
sure we
this
have
is
them all.
94. Look at the photo. You talked about the cloth, the table. 95, close-up of the clock. 96, showing the defect in the wall. 97, table, and can you see the bullet on the table there? Okay, thank you. 98. Table. 99. Did you point out the close-up of the bullet? Then 100. The hallway that you came down. 101. The further back photo of the sliding doors with the blinds. 102. 102. Sliding door. 103. The close-up of the blinds showing the two defects, bullet defects. 104. Showing the glass that had shattered out of the sliding door. And 105, the close-up of the bullet.
All right, those will all be admitted into evidence.
And I have no further questions. Thank you, Cody.
All right, cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Etherton, on March the 20th, March the 12th, 2020, you indicated you went to bed about 10:30, correct?
Yes.
Had you been outside before you went to bed?
I don't know if I took the trash out or not, but that would be the only reason, or to go to my truck.
Do you remember observing any unusual activity in the parking lot?
I do not.
Okay. So you went to bed, you and Chelsea were asleep, Zayden was asleep, and the next thing you know, you were awakened to a loud, I think you said a boom, correct?
Yes.
Do you know what that boom was?
Yeah, I figured it out after the fact. It was what I believe what is called a ram.
Okay, it was not gunshots, correct?
No.
Had you heard any voices before you heard the loud boom?
No, I was asleep.
When you heard the boom, that woke you up, correct?
I believe that I believe I was working. Woke up on either the side. I'm not even sure how many times that door was rammed. If it was rammed 2 or 3 times, but I believe, like, I started coming out of my sleep on the first boom, and then it was like boom again, and then that's when I was. I believe that's what I remember. It was.
When you were awakened and hearing the boom, were you hearing any voices?
No.
Not at all? Is that because there weren't any voices, or because you just had been awakened and weren't conscious of them?
No, I heard no voice until after the gunfire entered through our wall.
So you hadn't heard anything up to that point, correct?
No.
What was the gunfire? How did that happen?
Like I said, I don't know if it's something that my brain just shut down on, but like I don't even actually remember and hearing like each and every gunfire that was let off, because like after the fact it was all over the news and stuff. I was like, wow, that many shots were made, but I don't even remember hearing that many shots. Like, I don't know.
We want to know what you remember from that night, not what you heard on the news, okay?
Yeah.
Were these gunshots that you heard, how long did that last, if you can estimate?
To me, I mean, it was just like, I know I remember hearing like 2 of them. I know that for a fact. Like I don't know. Like I said, I can't even remember hearing them, hearing every single gunshot. Like I just remember hitting the floor, being scared, and rolling back into the hallway.
Were the gunshots something that seemed to have happened all at the same instant?
Like I said, I remember hearing a couple of them, but yeah, I mean, it seems like it just wall debris,
Okay.
but no.
But you were able to get back to the back bedroom?
Yes.
And during the course of going to the back bedroom, did you hear any voices from outside?
Yes, like I said before, when I ran back into the back bedroom and told her to get down on the ground because I didn't know what was going on, that's when I believe I remember hearing LMPD get on the ground or something like that, and then everything got silent.
Was that directed toward you or somewhere else?
I could hear it outside, so it was outside.
I mean, they weren't talking to you as far as you know?
Not at that point, no.
Okay. Did you said at one point you went and peeked out the peephole, correct?
Yes.
Where was that in this sequence of events?
That was, I looked out the peephole 2 different times. The first time was after everything got quiet again, after I heard LMPD get down on the ground, everything got quiet again.
That was after the shots, correct, that first time?
Yes.
And when you looked out the peephole, what, if anything, did you see?
Seen nothing.
No police?
I seen our Christmas tree that we had set out to, we was going to take it to the dumpster. We had an old Christmas tree. We bought a new one, so it was scattered all. It was one of those fake trees, and it was scattered all over the place. I remember seeing that through the peephole.
Okay. Was your range of vision kind of narrow through that peephole? Or could you see pretty much of that breezeway?
No, I could see, I could see I could see my truck all the way out in the parking lot, in front of my truck.
Okay. You didn't see any police officers or anybody around, is that correct?
Not at that moment.
Could you tell that the door to apartment 4 had been breached or opened?
I believe I did see it. I seen part of the door, like you could see this side of the door jam. But that wasn't like that didn't that didn't go through my mind. Like I don't remember telling myself like her door is open at that point. It wasn't until I actually opened the door and took a step out that I was like, I seen her door busted wide open.
Okay, well, that's what I'm trying to figure out. You stepped out into that little breezeway, correct? Or vestibule, whatever we're going to call it?
Yes.
And there was nobody around?
No, not at that moment.
And nobody said anything to you?
Not at that moment,
There was
no.
no gunfire?
Not at that moment.
So what'd you do, close the door and go back inside?
No, like I said before, I started hearing a male's voice saying, "Breathe, baby, breathe." And I could see flashing lights around the corner of the complex, and that's when I walked out further to the edge of the breezeway. And then that's when officers, or I don't know if it was SWAT officers, I don't know who even said it, but they said, "Get the F back into the apartment." And I immediately turned back and went into the apartment because
Where were those officers who said that?
I don't even remember. I just heard it. Like I don't even remember where they were standing. I believe they was off. I know they was off to the right, but I mean, I don't know exactly what car or where they were standing by.
And do you know where the "Breathe, baby, breathe" was coming from?
Yeah, I do now. Yes.
Well, I mean, back then, did you know?
I mean, I like to think of myself as a pretty smart guy. I was figuring it out as I was experiencing it.
Well, you would use the term it was very chaotic, right?
Absolutely.
So it's very understandable why you can't recall precisely what happened. When you say it was very chaotic, what do you mean by that?
I'm talking about the whole thing was chaotic. From the time that I got woke up to a loud boom, gunfire coming through my wall, nearly killing me, could have struck my girlfriend. It was chaos. It was chaos.
Can you estimate how long that lasted? Was it minutes, seconds?
I mean, yeah, I'm sure it was seconds. It's gunfire.
You at some point, then you said you were stuck in the apartment for some period of time?
Yes.
And I think you said it was an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours. You don't really know, right?
Yeah, it was around an hour and a half, 2 hours.
And you never ventured out again?
No, I never stepped foot back out of the apartment until it was all over.
Okay, was the incident with putting your hands out or being told to put your hands out the shattered sliding glass door, was that part of the initial chaotic part of it that you've talked about?
Yes, that was after I came back in. The first time I looked through the peephole, and then when they told me to come back in, I went back in, and then that's when I went to check our sliding glass door out, and then that's when that happened. Is when I pulled the blinds back. They were all standing out back with their.
Were those uniformed police officers? Could you tell?
I have no idea. It was black. All I seen was lights, and I remember seeing a dog to my left.
Okay, and so then you went back in. I think you described how Chelsea was on the phone with 911 and hung up, and you told her to call back again and tell them, "Hey, you got the wrong guy, right? Or
Yes.
this is the wrong apartment.
Yes.
We're different." Okay. At some point, do you remember? Well, at some point, somebody from LMPD contacted you, correct?
Yes.
And when was that?
Like I said, it was probably about an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Do you remember who that was?
I don't know him by his name. He was a male officer. I don't know him by his name. He came in. We signed a paper, for them to collect evidence.
Does the name Sergeant Luke Fan mean anything to you?
That's it.
Okay. Was he with somebody else or by himself? Do you remember?
I think there was another person.
And they had you sign a piece of paper that allowed them to come in and search your apartment, basically?
Yes.
Is that right? Okay. Do you remember telling him that you heard officers knocking and announcing?
No, I never heard an officer knock or announce.
You didn't tell Sergeant Luke Fan that?
Absolutely not.
Okay. You recall telling him that you went to the door and realized they weren't knocking for you? They weren't knocking on your door?
I didn't speak to that officer at all. Like, I didn't tell him about anything. It was,
Okay.
I remember my girlfriend asking him, was this LMPD that did this? And one of them responded, I think they said we're not sure, or something along those lines.
Okay. You don't know Brett Hankison, is that correct?
No,
Do you recall seeing him at all that night?
no, I didn't see any officers besides the ones that came in to collect the evidence, like actual face-to-face, you know.
That would have been after the event, correct?
When they collect the evidence?
Yes.
Yes.
Was that the next morning?
That was considered in the morning. We were still in that morning.
Was it, when they came in, was it light outside?
I believe so.
Did you see anybody coming and going from the apartment next door to you, apartment 4?
No, I didn't.
When was the last time you saw any police officers around 3003 Springfield Drive?
I'm not sure what you're asking. What do you mean, what was the last time?
I'm sorry, that was a bad question. What time, March 13th, about 1 o'clock in the morning or so is when this all happened, correct? And then you were confined, I think you said, to your apartment. You said you never left for some period of time. But you did say Chelsea left to go to the management office, correct? Do you remember when she did that?
Like I said before, I wasn't actually looking at the time. It was daylight outside, so it was
daylight outside.
It was, you know, it was, could have been 10 a.m., 11 a.m. Like I said, I'm not 100% sure.
Okay. Do you remember, were there still police officers around the building?
Yeah, I believe there was a few officers. Yes, there was.
Remember crime scene, that yellow tape up and around?
I believe that at one point, I know Chelsea seen, I know she remembers looking, because when it started getting daylight, you could actually see, and when she left to go to the management part, to get management, at that point you could see into the apartment, and we remember seeing, we both actually seen it. There was, I believe, a white blanket, which we knew at that time was a body. There was a white blanket in the hallway over a body.
Okay.
And you could see the blood on the very end of the hallway.
Okay, so when did you finally leave your apartment?
I'm not, like I said before, I'm not 100% sure if I ever even actually left the property if I stayed on property the rest of that day or not. Like I said, I don't remember if we went and got something to eat later that night. I don't even remember. All I remember is that morning.
Okay. You didn't go to work that day, correct?
No, I did not.
Okay, and that was because your cars were blocked in, I assume?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Etherton, you and Chelsea have filed a lawsuit against Louisville Metropolitan, or the city of Louisville and Brett Hankison, correct? And a bunch of other police officers as a result of this?
Yes, I believe that is, yes. Yeah.
And is it correct that you're seeking $12 million and $1 in damages?
Absolutely not. We have not spoken of any numbers.
Okay. Have you ever seen the lawsuit that was filed on your behalf?
I've
Read
seen
it?
it.
I'm going to ask that this be marked as defendant's exhibit number 1, and I would like to approach the witness and
That's
show
fine.
it to him. Mr. Etherton, this has been marked as defendant's exhibit number 1. Do you recognize the caption on that? Is that your name there?
Yeah, that's my name. Yes, sir.
And can you tell us who that says it's against?
Versus Louisville, Jefferson County, Metro Government.
Here.
Louisville Metro Police Department, and Detective Brett Hankison.
Okay, and how about down through there? You don't have to read all those names, but how many different people have you sued here, if you can count those?
Looks like to be 9.
And I'm going to turn here to the page 36 of this document and ask you if you can read paragraph D. Just read the part that's marked there.
Enter judgment on behalf of plaintiffs against defendant for reasonable actual damages in the amount of $12 million to compensate them for the violation of their First Amendment, Fourth Amendment, Eighth Amendment, 14th Amendment.
That's good enough. Actually, it says $12,001,000, correct?
It does.
And how about read paragraph H there?
For punitive damages under state law in the amount of $12,001.
Thank you.
Okay.
So you were not aware that this lawsuit was filed?
No, I'm fully aware that we have a lawsuit in place, but like I said, we haven't discussed any numbers between me and my lawyer.
And that hasn't influenced your testimony here today, is that correct?
What
The fact that you're trying to get some money out of this?
of course we want to be compensated, but like I said, me and Chelsea have never even mentioned the amount, $12 million. It's never even.
Thank you, I have nothing further.
Anything on, are you asking that be admitted
I
into
am
evidence?
going to ask that this be admitted, Judge.
Any objection?
No.
All right, then it will be so admitted. Any questions on redirect?
Cody, your lawyer, whose name is there, Jeffrey Sexton, did you have anything to do with the putting together of this complaint?
Oh,
Your lawyer did all this,
yes.
correct? Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Matthews?
No, Your Honor.
All right, you may step down. Thank you. Counsel, would you approach for just a moment, please?
Did you have that?
Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to take lunch today. I don't want you to think that we're not. We're going to put one more witness on, probably only do part of that witness's testimony, and then we will break for lunch. All right, Ms. Whaley, if you'll call your next witness.
Sergeant Kyle Meany. Meany.
You can go ahead and take a seat, please. If you'd raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. If you're comfortable taking your mask off while you testify, you may. You're not required to.
Okay, thank you.
State your name, please.
Kyle Meany.
And how are you employed?
I'm employed with the Louisville Metro Police Department.
What is your position?
I'm currently a sergeant.
And how long have you been with the department?
I've been with the department for 8 years.
In March 2020, what was your position with Louisville Metro?
March 2020, I was working within the Criminal Interdiction Division and a unit called Place-Based Investigations.
And what was the purpose of that unit?
So Place-Based Investigations was essentially based upon crime mapping that the Crime Information Center puts together, which is basically the intelligence side of our police department. They put that information together based upon calls for service related to violent crime and more or less try to identify hotspots within the city of Louisville.
Now, at that time, had your unit been investigating a group of individuals in the drug trafficking business?
That's correct.
And was one of those individuals Jamarcus Glover?
Yes, ma'am.
And was, as part of that investigation, were a number of search warrants obtained for different addresses?
That's correct.
Was one of those addresses 3003 Springfield Drive?
Yes, ma'am.
And was a search warrant obtained, an affidavit provided and a search warrant obtained for 3003 Springfield Drive, apartment 4?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
And whose apartment was that?
That was the apartment of Miss Breonna Taylor.
Now, to show you what is marked as Commonwealth's Exhibit 124. Is that the affidavit that was attached to the search warrant for apartment 4?
Yes, ma'am.
And is the affidavit designated as request for a no-knock warrant?
That is correct.
And now I want to hand you Commonwealth's Exhibit 125 and ask if you identify this document.
Sir, you can. That's the physical search warrant
That is the search
related
warrant.
to the affidavit. Yes,
Related
ma'am.
to the affidavit that was signed by the judge. Judge's
ma'am.
signature is on that warrant.
Yes, ma'am.
Had there been, prior to obtaining of this warrant, surveillance done on the apartment that's the subject of the warrant?
That is correct. There had been.
And during this process of surveillance conducted on the apartment, were there photographs obtained of Jamarcus Glover at that building?
There were. That's correct.
Now I'm going to hand you what are marked Commonwealth Exhibit 126 and Commonwealth Exhibit 127. And ask you what is contained in first Exhibit 126.
That is a photo of Mr. Glover walking to the vehicle that he was associated with a appears to be a box in his hand. And then the second photo is him getting into the vehicle with that box.
And in front of what building?
That's in front of the apartment at Springfield 3003.
And you are familiar with Jamarcus Glover?
Yes, ma'am, I
And
am.
that is him in the photo?
That is him in the photo.
And he has a box in his hand?
Yes, ma'am.
And that getting into a vehicle?
Correct.
Okay, we would move to admit exhibits 124, 125, 126, and 127.
No objection.
All right, they'll be so admitted.
Now, on March 12th, 2020, was there a briefing done prior to the plan to execute this search warrant that you just described on apartment 4, 3003 Springfield?
That's correct. There was a briefing done at the CID office.
And what's the CID office?
So it's just our office where basically we had our, desks, everybody's, all the units were there. That's more or less where any office work was completed that needed to be done.
And who led that briefing at the CID office?
So it was Wes Barton who led that briefing, and I believe Detective Goodlett kind of assisted him with it.
And as part of that briefing, was there a whiteboard with the various addresses that were subject of the search warrants?
That's correct.
I hand you what's marked Exhibit 128.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that the whiteboard? Is that a photograph of the whiteboard from the briefing?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
And on that whiteboard, one of the addresses listed, 3003 Springfield. Is there a list of detectives or officers beneath that address that had been designated to serve that search warrant?
That's correct, there is.
And above that address are there words written, knock and announce?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
And how many officers are listed below that were designated to execute that search warrant?
Total of 8.
Okay. And is one of those officers Brett Hankison.
It is.
Who are the other officers listed?
So it's listed Nobles, Dorr, James, King, and Cosgrove. Now, if I might add, we had multiple things, other units had multiple things going on that evening. So those positions were kind of dynamically changed. Lieutenant Hoover ended up out there. Josh Dorr was not out there, and Colin King, who's listed on here, was no longer out there as well.
And what about Sergeant Mattingly?
He was still at that location.
Oh, he was there.
Yes, ma'am.
And what about Detective Campbell?
Detective Campbell was there, that's correct.
And you said Lieutenant Hoover.
Lieutenant Hoover.
Detective Nobles?
Detective Nobles, Detective Cosgrove, and Detective Hankison.
Okay, so 7 altogether.
Yes, ma'am.
Move to admit Exhibit 128.
No objection.
It'll be so admitted.
Now, you were not involved with the serving of that search warrant.
No, ma'am, I was not.
You are the sergeant over that PBI unit.
Correct.
Not every one of those 7 detectives who actually served the warrant were in the PBI unit, as you said.
Correct.
All of the detectives, however, that served the warrant were experienced detectives,
Yes, ma'am.
and it served multiple warrants.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I believe that's all the questions for Sergeant Meany. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll go ahead then and take our lunch break. It's 12:15, and if you will come back at 1:15. And please remember the separation admonition. Have a nice lunch. I'll see you back at 1:15.
All rise for the recording of jury.
All right. As I said, we're going to go ahead and take a break until 1:15. Because you are still on the witness stand, please do not discuss your testimony with anyone. Okay, thank you. Counsel, could you approach for just a moment?